Lastly, we're going to look at a variation which will help us control positions of codes on the template. Before we start, we're going to open up a cross-section around the 350 mark. So on the cross-section viewer, you can either scroll down to 350 within the list or go and pick close to 350 on the drawing. We're going to adjust the crossfall on the right-hand side of the carriageway. So at the moment we have -2%. What we're going to do is between station 300 and 400, transition that crossfall from -2 to +2, and then from 400 all the way around to the end of the string, we're going to maintain a +2%. So to do this, we're going to hover over the RETW code, right-click, click on Add Variation, Modify Section, and this one is called Vary Section Slope and Width. Complete the form as shown. So let's have a quick look at what we've done here. So we've said the start station is 300 and the end station is 400. The code that we're changing is RETW. Now we can change the width of this current section if we chose to. And within the pull down there's two options. There is set value and increment value. Now if we leave the value as set and type in 0, what we're actually doing is saying, well, this section here between the centerline and RETW, I want the width of that to be 0, which obviously we don't want. We're not changing the width, so what we've done here is set increment value, which means add to the current width a value of 0. This means that we're not changing it in any way. Underneath, we've then got the option for a slope or a vertical. So initially you may be thinking, well, how do I know whether or not I'm going to be typing in a slope or a vertical distance? Well, in the Create Edit Section form, when we created our particular section for Road 1, we specified for the different parts either a slope or a vertical distance. Now the code that we are modifying is the RETW code, and this was created using a slope. This means that any value we place in the form below has to be a slope value rather than a vertical distance. So the curbs were created with vertical distances, therefore values in here would have to be vertical distances. So we've said we want to set the value at station 300 as -2%, which is what it is currently. By the time it gets to the end station, which is 400, we want the slope to have changed to +2. Click on Apply to see the change. If you've got station 350 open in the cross-section window, you'll notice that the slope for the RETW section is 0, and this is because it's the halfway point between that transition. So if you scroll back on your cross-sections, you can see that we'll transition back to the -2. If you scroll forward, you'll see that we transition to the +2. However, once we go past station 400, you'll see that we're back down to -2% again. That variation only controlled the codes between station 300 and 400. So what we need to do is continue the variation all the way through to the end. So to do this, we're actually going to add one more. We're going to right-click over the RETW code, Add Variation, Modify Section, Vary Section Slope and Width. Complete the form as shown. So in this instance, what we've said is, well, at station 400, all the way to the very end, I'd like to change the RETW code. I'd like to add nothing to the width, or take anything off the current width. What I would like to do, though, is at station 400, set the slope and keep it at 2%. And by the time it gets to the end, I want it to also maintain that 2%. Click on Apply. Now, if you haven't already done so, you can scroll past 400 now on your cross-section windows, and you'll see that the slope is remaining at a +2%. So there is a case for saying in some instances, well, should I apply a new template or should I apply a variation? But you can see how quickly you can add variations and quickly you can modify the template. So it can be a very good time saver to use the variations, but really it's entirely up to you to decide what's the most efficient way of working and whether or not applying a different template or applying a variation is the right solution for you. Feel free to open up Model Viewer and have a look at the result of the changes we've made.